following on, you also shared just earlier in the session about native advertising, and I think it's something that more brands are going into. Could you just give a definition of native advertising?
Well, native advertising has been around for many, many years, and earlier it was known as advertorial or branded content. But the native advertising, as we know it today, it's actually an evolution of that old advertorial. And the kind of official beginning of native advertising as a term was in 2012, so it's about 4 years ago. And what the main difference between the good old advertorial and native advertising is that native advertising is native. So basically, if the reader reads the piece, a magazine or a newspaper or a portal, then the advertisement should fit into the context so well that the untrained reader would not even understand that this was sponsored by a brand. Of course, this is a highly ethical issue as well, because the rule number one in journalism is that the editorial content and advertising must be separated. But the line is very blurred, and especially in online media, it's even more blurred than in print media. And in many countries, including the US and UK, now the regulators actually have been working on this. And there are new regulations how to separate native advertising and editorial content. But overall, yes, the definition is that it is native. So if you read or view the piece of native advertising in the New York Times, for example, it should feel exactly like the editorial content. The same standard of quality, the same way of presenting, all the same demands and characteristics that apply to the journalistic content should apply to the piece of native advertising as well.
Yeah, I think you mentioned earlier that even the CEO says that I'm not competing with the digital budgets, I'm competing with the TV
yes.
budgets. Yes.
In case of New York Times, native advertising is a premium product. So only the big brands with big budgets can afford it. And yes, the CEO of New York Times in Cannes Lions Festival recently said that they're actually competing with TV budgets, and they restrict the number of native ads, so they don't publish them every day. They are really selective, and the effort they put in is huge. So they have a team, it's a coordinated effort. They have journalists, they have writers, they have designers, they have video producers, they even have marketing consultants. Even the CEO of New York Times very often is involved. So it's really a premium product, both in a ways how it's positioned, how it's produced, and also how it's priced. It's expensive.
Exactly, and you also mentioned it's a two-way street. Also on the client side, they have to go away from the mindset of make this logo bigger.
Exactly, this make this logo bigger mindset would not work in native, because if you make logo too big, it's not native anymore. Then everybody will realize that this is an advertising. And yes, it requires a very educated and also brave client, because the main issue with native advertising is that it's very hard to measure the effect. So it's like any other branding. So if let's say if you put your logo on a major sports event, it's also very difficult to measure what exactly is the return on investment of your logo on a stadium, for example. The same is with native advertising. It's part of your branding, and of course you can measure your brand, but it's usually more long term, and it's not so easy and direct. So definitely, if you think that you can increase your sales tomorrow by buying a piece of native ad, it may not happen.
Yeah,
unless you are launching a new product, because in that case, probably yes, it would create a lot of interest, and if you add some direct sales messages in other media, maybe then it would work.